Hello there, everybody. I have the great honor of introducing this new venue um, for our Marshal Commander election debates. So, give a round of applause for our mediator for taking the time to do this for y'all, and our producer for taking a video to post for all of you who are watching this from the leisure of your bunks. Without further ado, we're gonna let the mediator take over. So thank y'all for showing up. Have a great time.
Answering the question. So, 3, 2, 1, go ahead. You have the stage.
So, mainly, there's a lot of things that I notice when going through an event or something on the battlefield, and that thing is that lots of troopers or commanders, there's a lot of miscommunication. There's a lot of people not being in the place that they're supposed to be, not following orders, etc. And I think that we need someone that can be able to functionally coordinate commanders and be able to make it so troopers can follow orders properly and they're not confusing for them to understand, so we can get missions more done effectively, more with less casualty. Battalion wise, I think all commanders currently are doing great. It's truly an amazing thing what they're doing, but we on the battlefield, outside and out on off field, we need more in a sense discipline coordinated onto troopers. Not to the point where it gets to the point of it's not fun anymore, but when troopers are goofing around or they are just in general not following orders from command, there needs to be responsibility taken. And I personally think that if I am able to become Marshal Commander, that we together as a community and as a team, we can get things more efficiently done, faster, better, and better than ever. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. All right. Okay. Moving on to Rook. Same question. You can start in 3, 2, 1. The floor is yours.
All right. So the first thing I would do to make these different regiments work together would be to fix the chain of command. Because right now it's just me. So I'd be looking for people who not only show capability in leading troopers, but also want to lead the different regiments. Because I don't want someone who's just there for power and whatnot. That won't work. And the second thing for him working together, for the regiments to work together, would be for them to have a defined objective of what their regiment does. Because right now it seems to be a little bit everywhere. Everybody's dabbling with everything. We have some attack doing defense doing reconnaissance. So if we can zone out those, that'll help the battlefield move a little bit smoother. And then one thing else I would do would be to fix communication lines between the commanders and troopers themselves, even between troopers themselves, to position and work together. Because one thing I've noticed is that a lot of the times during missions or events is that we steamroll through everything. We're not strategizing. So more strategizing would definitely help play into using our roles that we've been given and using our other troopers to the best of the abilities, so it's more efficient and smoother. Yeah, I'll yield the rest of my time.
All right. Okay, cool. All right, so moving on to Mets now. Same question. You have the floor.
So basically, the first thing I would try to do is try to make it so, or at least from the last time I played, everything was little mumbo jumbo. There wasn't much there wasn't much chain of command. It was literally just an officer telling everyone else what to do. It wasn't more of squad structures. How, if you guys remember, I tried to implement something like that, but then I had some personal stuff come up and I had to leave. But I would like to try to implement that back in. So far, I've seen it as, to put it bluntly, a failure. Every time we've tried to implement something like that, it always backfires in a way. If that is like a miscommunication between someone or something like that, and it just gives you more of a purpose to be an NCO instead of just a rank. Another thing I would like to do is actually like be more active, because I know in the past I've had activity problems, which is something I would like to change. Sorry. But I would also make it so these sectors actually do what they're supposed to. So, for example, Shock would work in, say there's like an event where, you know, a droid sneaks into the base. Shock would be in charge of taking care of that droid. And then after that, the is taken care of, it would be sent over to 104th to do their thing with it. So it's not literally everyone just chasing after a droid or a escaped prisoner or something like that. So basically to try to add, something else to the mix of what happens. As well, I would like to maybe stabilize like chain of command and find a group of people that work very well together and who show leadership, and or in the past have shown leadership, and make it so there is no arguing or miscommunications between everyone, which has also been a problem in the past. Miscommunications have shown up. I mean, they're inevitable, but I'd like to try to minimize those as much as I can without fully like putting people into a situation where they will not work well together.
All right. Well, he's surrendered his time. All right. Moving on now to our next and final candidate for this question, Benson. All right. Well, you have the floor.
All right. Well, first and foremost, I want to give more power to the commanders. At the end of the day, it is their battalion. I believe that they should be able to make those choices that are within their battalions. I don't want to enforce them with the too much things. Again, at the end of the day, it is their battalion. However, I will start kind of putting in more of my own suggestions towards battalions, making things that can work for them. I plan on kind of revamping the Thank you, Mets. Apologies. I don't know what keeps on happening with my mic in game. However, I'm just going to continue. I plan on revamping the chain of command. Currently, there are 3 senior comm positions. I heavily disagree with that, mainly for the fact that those positions are, at that point, I believe that you're just kind of a glorified regimental commander. So I plan on kind of revamping that to have its own special meaning. On top of that, again, kind of want to revamp that, kind of bring it back to its traditional roots of how it has been, and how it should be. That is all.
Okay. All right. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next question. I'm gonna read it out loud, and I'm gonna give you all 30 seconds to a minute to come up with something you're gonna say or your talking points for the next question, and then we're gonna move on and start. So the question is as follows. Do you have any battalions, sectors, or squads that you would like to see be added in during your term? If so, what would it be, and how would it help out the rest of the battalions? We're going to start with Chase now. All right, well, you have the floor. Remember, you have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
So, the point I want to make is there's no need for any extra battalions, squads of the swords, unless you, if you buy a custom squad, that's a different thing. But before we even think about adding a different battalion, we need to fill up our other battalions. We have lots of spots, commanders that haven't, that are vacant, like the 327th or Admiral. those aren't even filled, and I don't think we should be really thinking of adding any new battalions without working on and fixing the other ones. I yield the rest of my time.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to Rook. Same question. You have the floor.
There's during my time, I think there'd be only one squad that I would add, and that would be a bomb defusal squad, which is something that the previous Marshal commander wanted to implement it, but never had the chance to. So I think I'd simply do that, so that way there's just a secondary squad like medics who can focus on defusing bombs, and that takes that duty away from RC, so they can focus on whatever else they need to do, like training or whatever else they want. But other than that, there really isn't anything else we should add at the current time. I'll yield the rest of my time.
All right, moving on to our next candidate, Mets. Same question.
Okay. The candidate has sent a direct message to me that he is currently indisposed.
Benson, same question. 5 minutes. You have the floor.
I agree with much of what Chase had said. I honestly don't think we need to add in anything. If anything, I think that we have maybe a little too much. Whilst I would not do anything to limit it at the moment, I do think that. However, again, I do agree with Chase's points that we do need to fill up our current ones. We need to kind of get all of these back up to full strength. I wouldn't really add or remove anything as of now.
All right. Okay. We're going to be moving on to the third question. Like last time, you'll be given a couple seconds, minute to come up with your talking points for the question. The following question also comes from the former Marshal commander. It is as follows: will you honor the legacy of the Marshals? If so, what would wait, hold on. If so, that would just be kind of shark money. What the hell is? What is this question? I think there's an error with this question. We're going to be moving on from this question.
The question has no error.
Okay. Well, I'm going to read this question verbatim, and the candidates can decide how they're going to respond to this question. Will you honor the legacy of the Marshal commanders? If so, what? If so, that would just be kind of shark money. Epic Chungus Pog. Chase, are you ready to respond to the question?
Yes, I am.
Okay. You have 5 minutes, like previous. You have the floor.
So, absolutely. I don't think should be any reason, unless they were very rude to other people. I don't see why there isn't a reason that we shouldn't be honoring the legacy of other Marshal commanders. They've done a great job in a service to the Prism as a community, and they've done as good as a job as they could. Benson was an ex-Marshal and a few others. They're all great people. I don't have really much else to say. I mean, you just gotta honor their legacy. There's nothing else to it. I yield the rest of my time.
All right. Thank you. All right. So moving on to the next candidate, Rook. You have 5 minutes to respond to the question. You have the floor.
All right. Like Chase said, I think it definitely should honor the previous Marshal commanders we have. They've kind of set the stone for which we walk on now, and we'll set the stone for which the next Marshal commander will walk on. So even if the stone may be a little beaten, we can still use it to walk forward and change it. So I think we should definitely honor their legacy, whatever they've done, unless it's been really bad. Then I guess we might have to reconsider. But other than that, I believe there should be no reason to not honor them.
Okay. Is that all for your response?
Yes.
All right. All right. Moving on to. Is Matt still not back? All right. We're just gonna move on straight to Benson. Benson, you have 5 minutes to respond to the question. You have the floor.
All right. I do agree that we definitely do need to. Don't need to, but I definitely think we should honor our past Marshals. One of the ways that I have honored a past Marshal is that I've kind of incorporated something from what he wanted into kind of what I do now, but that's beside the point. I disagree with how it is currently set up with Marshals getting a rank of executive officer. Again, I do believe that commanders should have their own choices within their battalions. And for someone that, whilst they were the Marshal and they should be honored in any type of way, I don't believe that that is the correct way of kind of honoring that. I would probably do something else. I'm still kind of debating on that kind of thought process for that. But yes, I do believe that Marshals should be honored past, future, and present. And that's all.
Okay. Thank you. We're almost done with the main questions here. Once again, you will be receiving a minute to come up with your main talking points. The next question comes from Mikey in the 104th, I believe. Could be wrong, but yep, it comes from him. His question is as follows. Obviously, I'm not the only person who will ask this, but what are you going to do to answer our inactivity problems? Chase, you'll be first again.
Alrighty.
All right, remember, you have 5 minutes to respond to the question. The floor is yours.
So obviously the biggest problem about this server is the inactivity. I notice it every day. I'm sure everyone else does. We all know it. Ways that we can solve this problem, really, it's very down bare minimum to a few. And there's only a few things. There's a lot of far-fetched things that you can do that just might work. But the main things I think that would help boost the player count, obviously making sure that our server is up to date, that it meets the player standards, and that when someone joins the server and they think, wow, this is just, it's well made. I love it here. We need a respectful community. Social media works too. Places like Discord. I notice a lot of Discords have promotions and they're large Discord servers where you can do partnerships. And that usually helps out a lot because, you know, I personally think I've noticed this a lot. People just have Gary's mod just sitting in their Steam, like they have it. They just have it sitting there. And if we were to reach out to people on Discord through partnerships, so like, hey, this maybe seemed cool, like Star Wars RP, or maybe someone's like, I've never heard of this. Maybe this is something cool to try out. But you know, places like Discord, I don't know, Reddit, r/Star Wars r/Gary's mod. That's a good place to sponsor. And you know, just making sure the server is at peak performance, I think it's just the top important things that we should do to increase the player count. Of course, be loyal to our current community members because eventually, maybe not all of us will be here at one point. And you know, to keep everyone happy, we need to listen to their suggestions, figure out what they want to do, and we can improvise from there. I yield the rest of my time.
All right. Okay, so moving on to the next candidate, Rook. You have 5 minutes to respond to the question. You have the floor.
Alright. So as Chase said, there's many ways that we can do outreaching in order to grow a player base, but one of the things as Marshal Commander that I can do is to enforce a more serious like RP environment during events and during like higher population time, so that when we do get people on, they're not seeing like 6 troopers running around killing each other in the hallways, or half of us running around doing nothing, just standing still, doing more training maybe throughout the base, just so that way there seems to be activity is happening, things are moving, we're not just standing. That way people will want to stay on because they're doing something, not just sitting there waiting for an event to be called or training or tryouts or anything like that. So I think that would be the easiest way that I could try and increase player population. I yield the rest of my time.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to Benson. You have the same question. Remember, you have 5 minutes to respond to the question. You have the floor.
All right. So the inactivity problem is a pretty big problem, and as I said before, I think that commanders should be over the battalions. However, I, as the marshal, am over those commanders. I will definitely be enforcing a sort of activity type type thing. I believe that during my term before, I did enact a activity kind of checklist if you were inactive for a certain amount of times. It was either me or Metz. I can't exactly remember if it was either of us. However, there was that activity form, and I do want to keep on using that. I want to pursue that. I think that can really help out with commanders. I could definitely tell the commanders and be like, hey, I need you to do these types of trainings with your troopers. I need this to be kind of going on. I can suggest kind of these trainings. And then I could definitely also do a lot more from the kind of commander side of things, making sure that everything is neat, tidy. Again, there's trainings going on for these troopers. Talk to all the commanders at once, see you get some group trainings. There's general things to make sure that the populace is still going on and happy. Yeah, that is all.
All right. Okay. So, moving on to the final main question. It comes from James, and it is as follows. If we were to elect you as our marshal commander, what would you do to change the server battalion-wise? Like, for example, would you help with RC tryouts? Would you add a new job to 501st? You have the floor.
So, to that question, I personally think what we can do as a team, as a community, the battalions right now, they need refining, and that's a thing that's commonly known. I can, as marshal commander, I can help out any commander with any documents they need to write, any tryouts they need to do. I'm here to help, and I'm here to do it as fast as I can and as efficiently and just quality work as I can. And the battalions, for adding new jobs and such, battalions currently right now, I think, are well equipped at the moment. And the reason why I think that is because, there's so much diversity. I personally think in these battalions, we have a shadow paratrooper, we have a splicer, we have we just have an ARC, we have RC, we have special ops, we have main attack force defense. We have a great variety that I don't think that there needs to be any changing of it. I think, but when it comes, but then again, right? If you want to reach out to me and talk about something, just do it. PM me. This is of course if I make it. You can PM me. Remember that there's a suggestions chat in the Prism Discord, and I don't think a lot of people use that. But you need to realize that this is available for you, and you can use it to your advantage. You can ask for certain things, and the community can discuss about it. It's all a community vote. It's a community discussion. And as Marshal Commander, I am willing to help. I am willing to do anything in my best ability to help out this community and help out any certain trooper that has a certain need or idea they want to come out with. But overall, yeah, I just think that if I become Marshal Commander, then I can help out a lot of people, and the battalions are doing great, and they just need a little bit of refinement. I yield the rest of my time.
Okay. So in general, there wouldn't be any things you have in mind that you want to add, or anything right now. Any tryout types of tryouts you would want to add?
Is this a question to me?
Yes. Just to expand upon your response.
So when it comes down to refinements, I think first off, commanders and I we can work on documents that refine make tryouts more descriptive than shooting practice and running around. I think like for the 104, so a lot actually, this is something that I notice a lot. Lots of Italians lack doing role play. They shoot, and they shoot, but there's no role play involved. I can help out with any trooper, any commander that needs to implement that can go on with their tryouts. And so 104th, when they're repairing a tank or a plane, I don't see a lot of people doing any like check engines or /me opens the panel or such. Or when you splice into a computer, when you go into a computer in general, when you're really doing anything that requires some sort of role play involved. And I feel like that should be added to trials to see how well people do when it comes to role play and for special battalions.
Time.
All right, well, there's your time. Thank you for your response. All right, moving on to Rook now. You have the floor. You have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
All right. Well, one thing I've noticed is that the way we have the battalions organized now in these 3 regiments is a little bit restricting, and I believe some of the battalions are out of place, such as the 91st, which is currently in the Defense Battalion, a regiment, even though they are a scout and reconnaissance unit, so they wouldn't really be on defense. But in terms of actual battalions and my meddling in them, I wouldn't do that as much. I wouldn't really be meddling in a commander's battalion because I've already talked to him. I've seen how it works. I'm the one who gave him the check mark to do there. I know what I know what he's going to do with his battalion. The only time I'd have to step in is if there's like maybe a balancing issue or I'm getting other problems with his troopers or anything like that. So I wouldn't necessarily be stepping in unless I have to. And in terms of setting up tryouts, like Chase said, there definitely needs to be a little bit more in depth. When I was working with Archer before he resigned, he was definitely like a golden example. His documents were perfect. They had a detailed list of what needs to be done and what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, and it makes the battalions more elite. So that way we can have that separation of levels for like less serious RP players and those who want to take it up to the next level. So overall, I wouldn't really be meddling unless I have to, and I would want to elevate the tryouts and requirements to join certain battalions, so that way we don't have everybody rushing to join the same battalion. I use my time.
Okay. All right, thank you for your response. All right, moving on to our final candidate, Benson. Same question. You have 5 minutes. You have the floor.
All right. So, okay. So, I personally believe again that the commanders should be over their battalions. If I am choosing these commanders, it means that I'm putting trust in them to run their own battalion. They, of course, will be on that 1-week trial. However, again, I'm putting that trust into them, so I'm trusting them to get these tryouts, trusting them to get these trainings, trusting them to get all these stuff out. I will not be kind of in their business. For again, one, I don't believe that I, as the Marshal, should really be into their business. It's whatever that commander is doing. It's that commander's battalion. He is molding it into what he wants it to be. If it becomes a problem where I need to step in, I will. However, again, there's the regimental commander in place to also do that. Terms of training-wise, definitely going to kind of just get more in depth with things. I can suggest things to commanders. I can suggest things to help them improve and make sure that they are the best that they can be. That is all.
All right. Okay. So that does it for the main questions. Before we take any questions from this audience, all right. So we only have one question, and that's coming from Mike himself. It states, "What are your thoughts on the arguments of 212 replacing 327th?" So yeah, that is the question.
What I've seen before, I saw that the 212th was replaced by the 327th, so it's been an on and off thing between the two. And I've seen a lot. So through servers, through like the past, before the Prism, the past generations of this community, I've seen the 212th a lot, and I thought that the 327th was very interesting because I've never heard of the battalion before, and honestly, it's very interesting, and I think they're pretty cool. When it comes to the arguments of of the 327th and the 212th, I personally think that it should come that the 327 should remain because it I've just seen a lot of that. But really, if the people are in demand for the 212 to be replaced, honestly, right now the 327 isn't active and no one is currently on it, and we can make a poll that what the people want, and commanders and I can come to a final decision with the help of the people's opinion. I yield the rest of my time.
All right. Moving on to you, Rook. Same question. All right. Go ahead. You have the floor.
All right. So in terms of 327 versus 212, I believe that the 327 should be replaced, with the primary factor being that the 327th was an outer rim assault unit, kind of like the 501st, who used vehicles like the 104th. So they're kind of a mashup between the 104th and the 501st. Whereas with the 212, while they were an assault battalion like the 501st, they also had the airborne troopers, which is something that we could focus on more if we were to implement them, so that way they would be different and they could be more of a flank unit that would go behind enemy lines while the 501st and other troops held down the fronts. So it would add like another aspect rather than just another attack battalion we've thrown in there like we have with the 327th. I yield the rest of my time.
All right. Moving on to Benson. Same question. You have the floor.
Roger. So, I see both sides of the coin here. One side, I see replacing the 327th with something more popular, something more well known, getting something out there. However, on the flip side, I've been with Prism for about 2 years now. It has been roughly about 2 years since I've been with this server. 212th has never fared well. It's always fared differently. It's always been the less favorite out of when it comes down to 501st 212th. Maybe if we could get something to definitely like make it more different. I remember Mike had an idea. I just can't exactly remember what the full idea was again. However, again, I think if you can just get a good idea for it, I'd be down with the replacement. But at the same point, I have kind of seen it here. Yeah, exactly. As Chase here just pointed out, the 501st and the 212th had beef. Like, it's pretty big. If I remember right, there was shooting at the halls. It was kind of insane. But that's beside the point. I think that, for now, we'll keep the 327th until a more compelling argument or something that can, like, make it more unique, make it more stand out. I yield the rest of my time.
Okay. All right. Seeing as no one else has any more questions, I do, as head GM, have a couple concerns and/or things I want to talk about as head GM. All right. As a GM, I've probably been GMing, I don't know, I want to say a good amount of time on this server. I don't remember really when I started GMing. I started GMing back when Benson was the owner, back on Anaxis. So it's been a while. So one of my biggest gripes with the community, I love these guys, I love this community, but one of my biggest things when I'm GMing that I dislike is when I order people to do something. I don't order them, but I tell them what to do, basically. Like, I give them a direction, and I expect them to follow that direction. and then I end up finding out that they are going somewhere completely different or doing something completely different, which I have not planned for, or I have planned for, but that area wasn't ready yet. So, how, as a martial commander, will you teach commanders and/or tell the troops to? How would you change things to make them make RP a little bit easier and life easier for GMs? So, any of you, I'll let this as an open discussion. Any of you that are ready to respond to that question can go ahead and tell me. Benton, you talked first, so you go ahead first.
All right. I see this from two different perspectives. From the GM standpoint, I definitely can see where you're coming from. It is a bit frustrating to have given someone something to do and they completely disobey it. However, at the same point, as a GM, something that one of the previous head GMs has instilled in me and a whole bunch of other GMs is you must adapt, or else you will fizzle out. And so I think in the end as well, it's also not just a clone issue. It is also an issue within the GM team, where they just need to learn how to better adapt to certain situations. They need to they need to not. This is gonna sound kind of mean, but they need to plan not for the entire thing. Just make sure it's kind of more broad and vague in order to make sure that if something happens that you do not plan for, you can immediately have something planned for it. I think my most recent example for this is with Chase opening up that computer on that one map on GM Balkan Snow. I did not have a plan for it. My only plan was to grab this RI trooper, head out. I had something kind of roughly. You just have to think quickly on your feet. However, I, as the Marshal commander, can kind of be like, hey, make sure to listen to the GM. He is the one setting up the event. I probably won't give out any like strict punishments for it. Probably just some PT, nothing too hard, depending on the type, the severity of it all. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that all.
Okay.
That's all.
I'm gonna go ahead and ask you a little question, or ask you something, and that to expand upon your response. I understand it's a good response, but something I would worry about, not for all events, but some events are planned and they do have a story which is intended to be followed, so that the rest of the story can continue at a further time. So when you have a story in mind for an event, and they alter it, it kind of ruins the rest of the future events that could happen, which would lead to a more consistent player base. So, you can go after this, after response to this, Chase. How would you? So basically, knowing that, what would you say to me? Basically, should I adapt? Because I'm fine with that. I'm fine with adapting to the player. But if that player basically finds something that would basically make the next event the next day obsolete, like it would just not make sense story wise, would I cancel the event and let them win, and adapt to them, or would I tell them no and be able to host another event and get more players the next day?
I would say 100% adapt. You don't have to flat out let them win. You could just adapt and make it more changeable. Definitely, I think that's something that needs to be more instilled. Is just if something does happen, if a trooper stumbles upon something, if a trooper does something that catches you off guard, that to me as a GM makes me ecstatic. It makes me happy that I did not plan for something and that I can kind of expand on this if I choose to. It opens up something new. For linear type events, it's kind of the same deal. If you are setting up something linear, make sure you always don't make sure all the time, but make sure that you can expand on something if something does happen. If they check a computer, if they check something, if they find something on someone, make sure that you can adapt to what they find, adapt what they can do, and just make sure that everything can be adaptable on the fly.
I think I personally disagree somewhat with what Benson said. I don't think it should just be completely adapting to what players do and their mistakes. a lot of responsibility goes down to commands and making sure they know where their troopers are and making sure that the commanders are following what the GM is telling them to, or aka high command or etc. Whatever character the GM is role playing as or whatever the mission is. Common solutions to blocking, preventing mistakes, blocking up doors, obviously. But the main thing, it's mainly on the troopers. I get the whole adapt thing, but that is something a GM. I've been head GM before, and I've dealt with a lot of people, and I've done a lot of events. And adapting is obviously something you have to do, and that is a really important thing when it comes to an event that doesn't go your way. But then again, when the troopers, when it comes down to plot lines, honestly, if troopers misbehave or they do something they're not supposed to, then I feel like sometimes an event that there needs to be a loss and there needs to be a punishment for when a trooper, when a group of people, not just one trooper, but when a group of troopers not follow orders. And that's another thing that comes down to discipline. As a Marshal commander and for other commanders, that first responsibility is that commanders need to make sure that their troopers are following orders and that they are taking care. And a big thing I noticed is that there's not a lot of respect between command. Well, obviously there's a lot of respect for some battalions, but sometimes I see no respect for higher ups or people down, and it plays into a big role of that. And there needs to be more respect, more coordination, and there needs to be punishment sometimes when someone doesn't follow, or when, as you say, something doesn't go to plan because a trooper did something they weren't supposed to.
All right. Thank you for your response. Let me go ahead and think of. Right, Rook. You wanted to respond? Go ahead and respond.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right. Well, I can see both sides of the argument. I agree. In some situations, Benson's idea would be better to just adapt and kind of give them whatever they did. Maybe that negatively affects them or positively affects them. But I also do agree with Chase in that there is sometimes a complete lack of respect for the GM trying to do his events, whether it's ignoring him, mainly ignoring him. So I think that's where it would fall on to the commander and myself to make sure that the troopers understand that the GM is running the event. So you should, if not 100% listen to him, at least take it into consideration heavily before doing something. Because then again, they do have basically all the power during that time. So whether it leads to success or downfall, and I'd say the easiest way to fix the problem of people wandering off would be to bring aside a ground command and explain to them the plan that you have in mind before telling all the troopers, so that way they at least know what's going to happen. They have a more in-depth, so they can control the troopers a little bit better than wandering around with them looking for the objective. They can lead them down the right path. So that way it'll eliminate the idea of having to wander off and go into areas unneeded. So communication between the commanders and the GM would definitely fix that problem, at least to a certain extent.
Okay. Is that all for your response?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then the final question I think I'll have for tonight, for myself, and I also speak for the GM team. I feel like I speak for the GM team. Anyways, that's it from me, and I believe that's it for the people in the audience. So I believe that is all for tonight for question-wise. All viewers, please give a loud round of applause for our contestants, for them coming out tonight to talk to you. And please give a round of applause to our benevolent leader, Chancellor Palpatine. Yeah, that is all for tonight that I know of. You'll be seeing them around the base, so you can give them a talk in Discord or around the base, and ask them for their autographs. That is all.